So guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to the build series, and for what is part 9. So in part 8 we got all the stories done, all painted, and now we're on to weathering, which is my favourite part really of any build. I think it really brings it to life and takes it from that kind of toy-like appearance and makes it into a scale model. There's lots of artistic license, particularly with armour. You can kind of really go to town with the weathering, and that's the part I enjoy really. Excuse me, I'm not saying, as I've said throughout the series, that this is the way you should do it. There are so many techniques, so many products, and lots of people that are way better at it than me, but this is how I do it, and this is what I'm trying to show, how I achieve the end result that I'm happy with. So yeah, so without further ado, we'll head down to the bench, and we'll start this process, which is messy, dirty, yeah, but I love it. Yeah, as I say, it's my favourite part of any build really. So yeah, we'll head down to the bench. I'll show which products I'm using, and we'll crack on. Apologies, this is going to be a bit of a longer video, I think, just because of the various techniques, and I will go away off camera and do stuff as well. So yeah, we'll head down to the bench and we'll crack on. Let's get dirty, as they say. So guys, back down at the bench, and we're going to start the weathering process. So as I said in the intro, all the stowage is done, the weapon systems are all on, all the ancillaries are on, number plates, etc. The only things left to add are the fire extinguishers and the actual headlights themselves. So what I've done is detail painted the inner of the headlights, and then we've got the actual headlights themselves to add to that. The wheels, front wheels, are still movable, but we're going to pose them in that sort of position to match the steering wheel once we're finished. So the way I'm going to weather this, it's a bit of a process. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to very lightly go over all the pink bits with a dry brush, a green dry brush, and I'm going to be using Vallejo 887 Brown Violet. Now, I don't propose to teach you guys to suck eggs at all, but dry brushing is exactly what it says. So we have our trusty plate. So what we'll do is just put a little drop of the paint on there, and then the brush I use to do most of my dry brushing is this one, which is from Army Painter. It's going to white out because it is a white, but it's Army Painter's small dry brush essentially, and then a bit of kitchen paper. So we put a little bit of paint on the brush, and then just take all of that paint off really, as much as we can, so that we've got very little, and you can test it on the paper. You can see there again it's going to white out unfortunately, but and then we're going to go in. So we'll start on this front wing, and we're just going over, and what it will do, it will raise up or accentuate a lot of the raised detail, the edges of panels and all that stuff. So obviously these vehicles initially were green as they came out the factory, and then the SF boys in theatre came to the conclusion that pink was a good colour. So in theatre they sprayed them, hand sprayed them pink, to get that pink colour. So any kind of where the paint's been chipped off, the pink paint, initially we're going to get, or you would have got I should say, the green underneath. So that's why I'm using the green first. So if we go over the bonnet, because there's lots of rivet detail on the bonnet, and this would have been climbed on and had stuff thrown on it, so you're going to get a fair bit of wear around the bonnet and on top of it. So now how well this is going to show on camera, I'm not sure, but you can see that very quickly we start. In fact, if I turn that light off, that's probably going to show it a bit better. So we can see that very quickly we're getting a kind of worn effect on the pink paintwork, particularly around the tops of the panels here and the rivet detail here. We're getting this worn effect. So the plan is I'm gonna do all that. Stun grenade's just gone off. Flashbang. I'm gonna do all that all over the vehicle, and then I'm gonna go in with less paint on the brush of 870 medium sea grey, and we're gonna then go over the top of that with the grey just to add some colour variation. I don't propose to do all that on camera because it will take a while. So what we'll do is off camera I'll get all that dry brushing done, and come back, and you can hopefully, as much as it will pick up on the camera, see the effect that it's created. And yeah, so I'll get all that done off camera. We'll come back and have a look and see where we're at. Alright, see you all very soon. So guys, here we are back at the bench. Now hopefully what you can see, I'll just get my pointer, it's probably most prominent here across the bonnet and on these top panels here, where the dry brushing has really given that worn effect. So we used the green, then we went in with the grey, and it's just given it, let's move that machine gun out of the way, which has been taken out for weathering. So it's just given this kind of worn look around the edges of the panels, and on the front here we've got this worn look. Now at the moment it's very, very shiny, and the reason for that is it's now had a gloss clear coat, and the clear I use is Winsor & Newton, which is this stuff, which is Winsor & Newton Galleria range acrylic gloss varnish. That is mixed 50-50 with this Ultimate Airbrush Thinner, which is an acrylic thinner. Mixed 50-50, sprayed through the airbrush at about 18 to 20 psi, and as you can see it gives this gloss finish. And the reason we do that is because the next stage of weathering is where I'm going to start to apply some washes, and you want to be applying washes over a gloss coat, because once they're dry it makes removal really easy. You can apply them over a matte coat. I have done that in the past depending on what effect you're after, but for this we want it so we can manipulate it once it's dry. So the first wash I'm going to use is this, which is Ultimate Weathering Wash, and it's the mud. These are my go-to washes really, certainly for kind of clay based washes, and they are clay based, so you can put it on, leave it to dry, it dries, and then you can take it off with just water. It's really easy, providing you've got a good clear coat. So I think there is a misconception that vehicles that have operated in desert environments, it's just sand. Well, that's not actually the case. From experience, the desert, particularly when you're driving vehicles through it, can be very, very muddy, dirty, horrible, sticky mud. So what we're going to do is we're going to apply the mud wash first, particularly around the wheels, the bit underside, going up the sides with some splash type effects, and then we're going to go in again with a UMP wash, but we're going to use light dirt. Now the benefit of these is you can mix them all to get whatever colour you want, and the way you would do that is just use a normal medicine cup, decant them from the bottle, mix them up, put them on with a brush, give it, I mean they dry pretty quick. I like to give them about 12 to 24 hours to dry properly, particularly for weathering. Panel lines a little bit different, but for weathering I tend to leave it a little bit longer. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to start on the underside. So as you can see on the underside, it is all detail painted. We've painted all the exhaust and everything else. So what we're going to do is just decant this mud wash into our medicine cup. And then I've got a generic wash brush. Oh, I can't remember where I got them off eBay. I can't remember the manufacturer, but they're modelling brushes kind of, but they're just cheap and cheerful. Model Panther is the brand, but it's certainly not, you know, an expensive brand. You get about 10 brushes for £5 or something, and this is their wash brush, and it works really well. And we're just going to kind of mix that up in the cup. It's been shaken well, but because it's a clay wash, you will get some separation of the pigments, etc. So we just mix it up, and then essentially all we're going to do is start slapping this on. You don't have to be, you know, particularly careful where it's going, and it will dry a very matte kind of finish. And you can go, because it comes off with water. Oop, not the camera. If your clear coat's good, then it will just wipe off with the water. So we'll get that everywhere we want it to be, really. Because the underside of these vehicles would be absolutely filthy, just because of the environment that they're working in, you know. Now under the LED light, this stuff literally starts to dry as you're applying it, which is great because it means, you know, you're not waiting days and days and days, which you would sometimes with oils and that sort of stuff. They take a long time to cure and dry. And clay washes, no, and the ultimate washes are absolutely brilliant. They do exactly what it says on the tin, really. Shameless plug, but available from umpretail.com. In the current climate are still trading. They're still delivering. They're doing their absolute best. They're inundated, but they're doing their absolute best to get the products out. And Hannah, Paul's partner, who essentially does all of the UMP packing and orders and everything else, he's working ridiculous hours, 15 plus hours a day at the moment to try and keep up with demand. Because obviously a lot of you guys at home modelling, we've all, generally all of us, I don't want to make a sweeping statement, but generally all of us have got big stashes, we've got lots of kits, and the thing that we're going to struggle with during the lockdown is supplies, glues, paints, washes, all the things we need to build all the kits we've got. And UMP are doing their absolute best to make sure everyone is kept well stocked with all the products they need, and there is a plethora of modelling products over there that you can
you can use, and they don't stock rubbish. Everything is tried and tested, not only by Paul himself, but by other people, other modelers that Paul trusts and trusts their opinion, and he will send products out to them. That isn't, you know, we want free stuff. I say we, not me, but that is just, he's got guys that he trusts, values their opinion, and he will send products out to them before they kind of go on sale on the site, to make sure, as much as can be, that these products are good, you know. And I think their kind of slogan is modelling products made by modelers for modelers, and that is absolutely the case. You know, yes, it's a business, but ultimately, Paul wants to, and Lee and Hannah, they want to supply good quality modelling products. Anyway, enough promotion of Ultimate modelling products, but I'm a big fan. I get most of my modelling sundries, I suppose we'd call them, from there. I mean, there's some stuff they don't stock, but we get that from elsewhere. But the stuff they do stock is good quality, and you know it's going to work. Anyway, so there we go, guys. So that's the first kind of weathering wash on, and I don't know whether that's going to pick it up. I haven't got my gloves on, schoolboy hour. But you can see already around the tyres here, it's starting to dry. So I'm going to have to leave that for an hour or so, maybe, and then I'll come back, and then we'll go with the light dirt. We'll get that on, leave that a while to dry, and then once it's all dry, I'll then show you how I'm going to remove it and manipulate that wash to start to give us the effect that we want. Because yes, these vehicles operating in that desert environment, as I say, a lot of people think it's like like the beach at Torquay and it's all sand. A desert, yes, there's lots of sand, but it certainly isn't the Bahamas. It's dirty, muddy, horrible sand. So these vehicles would have been very, very dirty. Anyway, I am now waffling. I've done a massive promotion for UMP, and I make no apologies for that. If the stuff works, then of course I'm going to recommend it to anyone watching, and anyone that's trying to achieve similar results to what I'm doing here. Anyway, I'm going to let this dry, and then we'll come back, have a look at the effect, and then we'll continue building up the washes and the shades and the colours and everything else. So for now, I'm going to say my goodbyes almost mid-video, and I'll see you. So here we are, we're back. Left this been about an hour and a half, and you can see that the wash is drying, or dry. So it's now time. What we're going to do, as I mentioned, we're going to use this stuff, which is light dirt wash. It's a very, very light tone. It's a really nice wash for weathering armour and creating those kind of mud effects. So we're going to start as we did before. Pretty much slap it all over the underside, because it would be very dirty. Now this stuff, the light dirt, I find dries really, really quick. You know, 15-20 minutes, and it's pretty much dry, unless you're in kind of deep recesses, or which obviously is going to take a bit longer. But this stuff dries really, really quick. It's probably, apart from dark dirt, which is, you know, I generally use that for panel lines and that sort of stuff, but the light dirt, I just love it. It's just such a good, not the camera again, such a good colour, a good tone, and it seems to me, and I'm sure if Paul's watching this, he will correct me, but it seems like a bit of a thicker, more dense pigment that's in it, so it tends to dry quicker and gives a much stronger tone, which I really like. I really like the effect of it. So we'll get all this on the underside. I think we're pretty much there. So then, what we're going to do, my gloves on again, terrible, I get proper dirty. So then we're going to start putting it on the sides of the vehicle where this kind of stuff would, you know, splash up all over the kit and the sides and everything else. So we'll get that on. You can, as I say, you can put this stuff on really liberally. It doesn't matter, because when you come to take it off, just water will do the trick, and you can manipulate it to however heavy or light or whatever you want it to be. So we're going to get some in the floor pan there, some on the side of the jerry cans, and you've just got to kind of think, if this vehicle was going through this sort of terrain, where would this stuff really gather, you know? Because certainly in the Own Man campaign, we'll call it a campaign, it was a war, but we'll call it a campaign because that's more politically correct. These vehicles are being used 24/7. There wouldn't be the time really, apart from the crucial things, you know, engine, weapon systems, that sort of stuff. There would not be the time to really maintain these vehicles, keep them clean, and because they were being used and they were fighting an insurgency at the end of the day. So we'll get a little bit in there, just kind of around where things would be. People are walking and dirt, and so we'll get that done. Yeah, so there we are. So the wash is on. Again, we're going to have to leave that a little while to kind of dry out. Oh, tell you what we haven't done is around the grill, where this kind of stuff would absolutely accumulate around the front of the vehicle as it's going through. There we go. And as I said, there's no real science to it. It's so forgiving, and you can literally slap it on and then take it off as and when. So if I move the camera just there, that's it. So the wash is done. We'll leave that to dry, and I can see already that it is drying really, really quick. So we'll let that dry. Then I'm going to come back and show you how you start to take it off, to give the effect that you want. And then we'll be on to the next stage of weathering, which I think is going to be, there's a few things I've missed, to be fair. So around this weapon system here, I've missed the dry brushing around there, but that's not a problem, we can do that later on. We need to chip away at the dashboard, steering wheel, steering column with black, because obviously they were black, but oversprayed with the pink. Alright, so we need to define that a little bit away from the rest of the other body panels. Yeah, and then we're going to attach, after that, we're going to attach the compass here, the fire extinguishers, we'll put the weapon system on, then we'll dull coat it, and then we'll go in with a bit of oil oil dot filtering around some of the main areas, just to give that sort of variation. And then essentially pigments, dust it up, because as I said, there is a lot of mud in the desert, but there's also a lot of dust. So we'll dust it all up, and then essentially another flat coat, and the weathering hopefully then will be done. So yeah, we're absolutely getting there now. This is my favourite part of any build. So we'll come back once this is dry, we'll start taking it off, and then we'll move on to the other stages. But we're not too far away now. We're absolutely getting there. So I'll see you all back at the bench in a couple of hours to carry on. So guys, cheers. Here we are. This essentially has been drying out overnight with the washes. So it's time to start removing them and get the effect that we're after. So it will take a while, as with most weathering processes, and it is quite a dirty job, hence gloves, some kitchen paper down here, and all we're going to use is just standard cotton buds and kitchen paper if we need it. And the way we're going to do it is just moisten the end of the cotton bud, and as you can see, really easy, we start to remove this wash from wherever we want to remove it from, and it will stay in the recesses. It will create that kind of dirty look that we're after, and that's why I like them. They're so simple and they leave with a really good effect. So you can either wipe it, you can dab it, which leaves some of it on there. You can basically do whatever you want. It's very, very forgiving. If you make a mistake, you can literally run it under the tap if you wanted to, and just reapply it. It's really easy. The trick is, if you know you're going to be removing it, is a good clear coat. And as long as you've got that, then life is very, very simple with these. Very simple. So, as with most of the processes during this video, what I'm going to do is do this off camera, because it's going to take an hour or so to get the effect I'm after, and then we'll come back, we'll have a look at the finished effect of the washes. And then essentially all that's left really is some pigments, add everything onto it, and we're done. So I shall do the rest of this off camera, and I will come back and show you the end result. Cheers. Okay guys, so all the washes are removed to the point that I want them removed, and as you can see, hopefully the effect is just as we wanted it, really. So you can particularly see around the tyres, and we've got this kind of ingrained mud effect, and also on the sides and everything else. I knew that would come off. So what else have I done? Well, as you can see, if I get my pointy stick, not prepared at all, we use the tweezers. So we've added some radio antennas. Now the way I do that is I use this stuff, which is just cheap fibre optic strands from a cheap fibre optic lamp from Amazon. I think it was about £2 delivered, probably about 3 years ago. And you just break a strand off and paint it. and for 35th scale antennas, it kind of works pretty well. It's about the right sort of scale. Obviously you can bend them, so just break it off, spray it with UMP black primer, and that's it. Sticks with CA glue. So there we go. So the radio antennas are in. We've added the compass here. We've put the rear weapon station back on now that it's we've done the washers, etc. What else have we done off camera? So we've added the headlight lenses, which come in the kit. We've then gone back in and added the weathering effects around the front weapon station that I forgot to do, and on the dashboard we have just done the same weathering effects and chipping, but just with some black, because they would have been black before they were oversprayed with pink, and that's where we're at. So we're also going to add to the front, which just fell out, this, which is just chain, which would have been a toe chain essentially. Now that is quite shiny. Some Fields of Glory models. It's not expensive, and that's going to sit essentially just in the front, in the spare wheel. So we're going to put a bit of glue in there, and then just add this chain. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to use some CA glue. So this is new CA glue I'm using, Rocket Odorless, and it's from Deluxe Materials. It's really good. Available at ump.com, Ultimate Modelling Products. So I'm just going to put, there's no science to it, a little drop of CA glue in there, and then we're just going to essentially place, stop it moving around, place the chain in the spare wheel and try and get it there, and that will do us. So that will set. Now obviously it is quite shiny. As you can probably see, the vehicle is less shiny now, because once I'd removed the washers to the point I was happy with, it was then flat coated, and the stuff I use is this, which is again the Winsor & Newton acrylic matte varnish, mixed 50-50 with UMP thinner, and that gives me a flat coat that I'm really happy with. I've been using that for about 2 years, after a recommendation from Dan Scattergood. He uses the Winsor & Newton varnishes, and I'm dead happy with that. The level of flat that it creates, particularly for armour. So we're going to move on to pigments. So I'm going to use 3. Well, I think I'm going to use 3. We'll test and adjust as we go. Now these are out of production now, sadly, but I've got the full set of these, which I bought off Paul Bretland, which are the MIG Productions pigments. So we're going to start with light Euro Earth. We're then going to move on and add some Gulf War sand, and then over the top of all of that we're going to add some beach sand, which is a very light sand colour. So I'm not using the pigments to create tonal variation as such. All I want to use them for is to create a kind of textured, dusty look. So that's what we're going to go for. So as with all the other processes during this video, I'm going to do the bonnet here, and then I'll do the rest off camera, because it will take a while, and once you've seen one bit, you've kind of seen it all. So the way I apply these, 2 ways. I use just a cheap paintbrush. This is an old Airfix Humbrol Zero paintbrush, so we're using that. And what I also use, you can get these really cheap, are these makeup applicators, and you get, God, loads of them for about £1, and they're really good as well. So this is a real messy job, pigments. So if we move it there, so the first one, light Euro Earth. So we'll just load the brush up a little bit. Obviously it's over a flat coat, and we just start to add the kind of dust and just brush it on. And you can see already, hopefully, that we're starting to get this kind of textured, dusty look, which is what we're after, or what I'm after. Obviously modelling is subjective, so everyone goes for a different kind of finish. Some people weather the hell out of stuff, some people don't, have it factory fresh, but that's just personal taste really. So there we go, we're getting that. Now this can be, as I say, quite a messy process, so make sure you've got your kitchen paper down, because you're going to get pigments and going to go everywhere. So we're kind of happy with the bonnet. We move on to the front wings and the rifle cases. And at the end of the day, this is to try and create dust effects. Now dust isn't standard, it's random obviously, so you can kind of just go where you want and go to your own eye, and kind of see where you want it to be really. Now I'm not using any pigment binder or anything like that, because that's not the effect I'm going for. I just want this kind of dusty effect rather than using it for creating mud or staining or anything like that. Just dusting it up. So that's the first one. Now we're going to go in with the Gulf War sand, which is a sand colour, but it's a little bit darker than the traditional kind of beach sand that you would imagine, because as I mentioned earlier, you know, in the desert it's not necessarily, you know, Bahamas type sand. It's quite dirty and everything else. So we're just adding that on. Try and think of places on the vehicle or on the model, whatever it is, where this stuff would kind of accumulate. So in the creases here under the tarp roll, you would get an accumulation of more dust and sand than you would in other places. And just try and bear that in mind when you're applying your pigments, if you're doing it in this way. We're just going for this dusty desert look. And then we'll move on and use the beach sand, which is a very light sandy colour, traditional kind of tropical beach sand. We're not going to use a lot of that because that's not the look we're going for, but what we are going to do is just use it to create some variation in the dust effects. So guys, that's the kind of bonnet and the front of the tarp roll done. Really easy. So I'm going to go off camera, I'm going to do the rest, and then we'll come back, which will be the end of the weathering process really. There's not much else for us to do, so I will come back, we'll have a look at it, we'll have a chat, and then in part 10 essentially is going to be the reveal. So I'll go away and do this off camera, and I will see you all very shortly. So guys, there we are done. All the pigments were added, creating the dust effect I was after, and it's had another flat coat just to seal all those in. You know, it's not a toy, we're not going to be rolling it around the floor and making brum brum noises, but you just want those pigments kind of sealed in. So yeah, it's done. All that left really now is to take some good pictures of it in the photo booth, and yeah, we're done. So the build series is pretty much done. There will be a part 10, just where I'll talk about my thoughts on the kit and the techniques and everything else that I used. But the build is finished. So in part 10 there'll be some decent pictures of it, hopefully show that some of the details that I've added, and some of the weathering a bit better than on the camera. And that's it. So I'll go back face the camera, say my goodbyes, and I'll see you all very soon. Cheers.
So guys, there we go. The build is finished. I've taken it as far as I want to take it. Yeah, so we're done. So there's going to be one more part. I'm aware this part is a little bit longer than some of the previous parts, but that's just because I needed to kind of show the different stages of weathering that I've used. So in the next part, what I'm going to do, all that really is left to do, is take some photographs of it to show the effects and the finished product, if you like, or model, and show it off to the best of my ability. So we'll have those in the next part, and I'll briefly talk about my thoughts on the kit and the techniques I've used, and that's it. We're done. So without further ado, I'm going to say my goodbyes. So stay at home, stay at the bench, stay safe, and happy modelling. And I'll see you in part 10 for the reveal, I guess it is, and just to briefly talk about my thoughts about the whole process and filming it all, and the build series as a whole. So thanks for watching, stay safe, and I'll see you all in part 10. Cheers.